Hey guys, welcome to episode 1 of the Sprocket Formula. This is Stringdude with Duxk and Dagnis, here to talk about our beta experience. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. Dagnis, what really stuck out to you?
I really like the dynamic events. Those were pretty cool. They were quite different than Guild Wars 1. Guild Wars 1 were very static, and also just getting to play with other players was really cool too. Running into random people. But there's a lot of things I didn't like as well, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I like the dynamic events as well. They're a little bit better than like games like Rift and like the Party Quest event system in Warhammer. Just kind of encourage you to do things organically while you were doing, like just going through the zone and stuff like that. The one thing that I didn't like was the dynamic events, of course, because this was a beta test and there were so many people that would end up ruining some of the dynamic events by over-tuning them to having way too many people there.
I didn't really like the dynamic events too much. At first, I loved it starting out, but then it kind of really got old because there were so many dynamic events. They just kept repeating over and over and over again. So it felt like, oh, here's a dynamic event. Let me jump right over there. So it was great to have the experience, but also I felt a little restricted.
Yeah, I actually, in that giant fight, I ran into that 3 times. The time that I videotaped it was the 3rd time, and I knew that going to that town, I would run into that giant. Because there's no other reason for people to be there except for that giant. So it was kind of like, oh, there's the giant again. So I'm kind of worried about Vince end up going to that final point of their dynamic event cycle a lot. And just getting stuck there.
Well, what level were you when you fought the giant?
Oh, I was 19, I think, but it scaled me down to like 15 or 16, I forget. But and also another beef I had on it. You were complaining about a lot of dynamic events.
Yeah.
On that beginning area, the human zone, because I created 3 humans.
Yeah.
And I hated it because getting to that first bit of the storyline required you to be level 3, and what I found was basically it was requiring you to do the dynamic events to level up, but every single time when I made a human, I wasn't running into any dynamic events. I was going and doing all 3 of the 3 hearts at the very beginning, the dam, helping out the fishers, and helping out the farmer, and I still wasn't level 3 yet for the personal story. And I was getting really ticked too, especially after my 3rd human.
I mean, when I did a human for the 5 levels that I did my Guardian, that ended up looking exactly like me, which is really creepy. I actually, just by doing the dam, killing the heart pieces, I got to level 3. But yeah, I do feel that the human starting zone is like really cramped in a sense to that one starting area. It's just like the farm, the orchard, the dam, and then the thing by the dam, which I don't remember what it was. Because I did it Norn, and I pretty much loved the entire Norn area.
The harpies over at the dam, that's a dynamic event right there.
Yeah.
So, and then the orchard is level 4, and if you're trying to take down as level 2, you might as well just kill yourself. And then I think there is one in the southwest corner. I didn't get far enough to ever do that one, but you probably did. I know your elementalist was a human. That was, I think, level 4 or 5 requirement. So it was just like, what are you supposed to level up on? I just found it irritating.
Well, what humans did you play as? Like, what professions? Because I know I was an elementalist, and he said he was a guard. Duck said he was a guardian.
Ranger, engineer, elementalist, and mesmer.
See, because I didn't have any problem at all as an elementalist. I started out with the scepter, and then just threw phoenixes out, and it was really simple for me.
The ones that I got the farthest on where I actually tried to do that first bit of the personal story was the Ranger and the Mesmer. And both times I went to go do the level 3 stuff, I had done the dam, the fisherman, and the helping the farmer, and maybe one dynamic event. And I still wasn't level 3 for both of those. The Mesmer was a pain in the butt because I was trying to take on multiple level 3s at the same time and being a lightweight armor. It's a pain in the butt.
I mean, the other thing is that I didn't like the reason it was so easy for me is because when I was in Divinity's Reach and even in Holbreck on my engineer, which I ended up getting to level 19, I'm about a bar away from 20. I did a lot of exploration in the city because that actually got me almost a whole level just exploring all the waypoints, all the story points, and I think finding
points of interest.
Points of interest. I'm sorry, points of interest. All of the teleport points and stuff like that, and that was just really the best way to, in my opinion, to get those last couple of XP without having to kill something. It's just that made it easier for me in general, except when I was leveling my Norn. But yeah, you can see the dynamic events. I'm guessing they're going to be helpful at the beginning, and they're going to be like really of course they're going to be dynamic throughout the whole game. It's just that this is just an isolated incident of it being a beta of so many dynamic events happening because there's so many people around. Because I'm feeling that once the game gets launched and population between zones gets really spread out, and you have a nice spread of players, especially if you pre-purchased and you're there 3 days early, like most of us will be who pre-purchased.
All three of us, actually.
All three of us will be. The population is going to be spread thin in those areas, and I think that how many times a dynamic event happens will probably be reduced. I mean, of course, because I did in the Norn area, in the northern part of Wayfarer Hills, which is by the Ice Lake. There's the Ice Shaman event quest where you have to kill this Ice Shaman, and of course, you had like 50 people there. And the entire weekend while I was playing, that happened at least 4 or 5 times. So, and I can imagine that in a day that happens at least 6, 7, 8 times. So.
Yeah, that giant I think I ran into like 3 days, and that was
Yeah.
one of the indoor event. What did you realize? Because this is one thing I found pretty cool, was within the cities you can use the waypoints for free.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty nice. So it was just like, I felt it paid off a little bit more to find the waypoints in the city.
I think it was you who told me that the easiest way to get back to your city is try just to get to the closest waypoint,
Just outside
the city, and then teleport in because it's free.
Yeah. So you don't want to take that extra 5 or 6 copper to get deeper into the city
Because you are some kind of gold pincher.
Well, the thing is, I found myself playing the beta like it was the final game until about the last, 6 hours or so, and then I was just like, when me and Stringdude were doing tons of World versus World, shooting heifers all over the place.
Oh, God.
I just started just selling everything, like even stuff that I was just like, oh, these are useful mats, for my professions. Was I got all the way, one of them up to 60 something, which is pretty ridiculous. The max being 400 for 400. I was just selling everything to try to get a catapult or a trebuchet.
Which brings us to the next thing that you two did, which is actually took part in the World versus World area, which I, on the other hand, took part of the battle zone areas, the Battle of Kyla and stuff like that. So, what did you two like about the World versus World? I of course, only went in just to say it was, hey, look, I found it. And then I immediately set back into Lion's Arch and started exploring around. So, Stringdude, what did you tell me about your experience?
Well, since I was an elementalist and they have so many abilities, I found right when I jumped in, like before me and Dagnis actually played together, I was lacking a lot of abilities that I was really needing. So I went back to PvE and got a lot more abilities, and then when I went back with Dagnis, it was a lot easier. But I loved the whole fortresses and everything. I loved how you could set up a trebuchet and anybody could use it. But I also felt like all the stuff that I would get in PvE and I sold, it was easy to get a lot of silver, and then I would go into PvP and I could actually use that silver a lot better. But once I was in PvE, it was really, really difficult for me to get any silver.
I liked it. My only problem with World vs. World was the fact that no one was a commander at all, which cost, I think it was 10 gold. You could buy it in the city. It was like a book that you could buy that would allow you to become a commander. That's why I saw like 2 skill books on the map. I was just like, there's 2 skill trainers? What the heck? And they're like right next to each other. One of them was actually a commander that would sell a book, and that goes with squads and something basically no one will probably experience on any beta weekend, because no one's going to have the money to be a commander. I found that it just de-evolved in World vs. World to mob tactics. Like we had, on one part, we were taking on a keep, and we had, I don't know, like 70 people, 50 to 70 people, and it's just like, you only need like 30 or 40, and it was just like, and while that was happening, the green server was just coming up right on our right side, taking every single base, while everybody on the red were just basically acting as one big force, and we were just losing because of it, and it just de-evolved, and I didn't really enjoy it after a while. I was just like, but it is what it is. It was cool when the 2 forces met at that top keep. We got the trebuchet action going on and helped Stringdude aim some. It was pretty cool.
For me, it wasn't really fun whenever all of a sudden you'd see a green guy come over the shoulder, and it's like, oh, okay, come on, Dagnis, let's go take him on. When it was just me and Dagnis there, and then all of a sudden, all of his 50 buddies showed up and stormed us, and then we just have to try to run away as fast as possible to the nearest keep.
Which isn't going to happen.
Yeah, no, and it was horrible because our whole team was red team was so spread out. It was ridiculous. But then again, whenever me and Dagnis would actually go around, we found that it was a lot easier to actually take over someone else's keep when it was just me and him, because you don't have this huge mob running around. You just have me and him.
Well, not a keep, a mining camp. Or
mining camp, whichever we were trying to take at the time.
Yeah, I'm guessing the smaller stuff is probably easy to take over, like
supply
lines, mines, and stuff like that. I'm guessing 5 people would be the max you need to take someone over like that.
Well, the thing is, you could probably do it with 2, but the only problem was me and Stringdude were being auto-leveled to 80, so we weren't as powerful as those NPCs. We would struggle with one NPC. We could kill it, but we would kind of struggle, and taking on like 2, we wouldn't really win at all. We'd maybe be able to kill 1, but by the time we were able to kill the other one, the other one would respawn. Because we had some pooling issues, trying to get them on their own, because we were pulling like 3 at a time. It was like, yeah, this ain't working out. I think once you start going in there at level 80, then you're going to be more of a force to be reckoned with that can actually take those supply camps. Just 2 or 3 people can take one.
Well, I mean, as far as that, I felt like, because we ran into a spot where there was actually one green invader at a supply camp that we were trying to take over, and we would get him down to like, maybe 10% health left. He would run back to the supply camp, and we can't jump in there because they have so many people in there. So we would start trying to take people out one by one. Then comes out the green invader, take us down on health. We'd get him down on health, he'd run back. So it was a real vicious cycle, and we weren't able to take that supply camp over until we had more people.
Yeah, eventually the green invader stayed behind, and our problem was that even before the green invader, we would attack one of the warriors, and he would pull another warrior in one of the guard caravans, which wasn't going anywhere because they didn't have the tower nearby for it to go to. It was kind of just like a fruitless effort, but it really does come down to numbers, sadly, at the very beginning, and that's where the mob tactics are, if in a way, reinforced to the gamer. Yeah. I just hope, though, that once the game comes out and more players get to 80, it's going to be a lot more organized, and it won't be people trying to kill city leaders.
Yeah,
it won't become stupid.
More guilds as well, because I know as far as our guild, if we actually had more people in there, we could have taken things over much, much faster. Because you'd have our guild group go to the left side, and we'd have, of course, the train of people who are just not associated with any guild, just training through the right side.
Yeah.
So
let the mob be the mob, and
let them loose like barbarians.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So while you guys did World versus World, I did structured PvP, which is the Conquest, and you have an option from the PvP panel to join this, and there are a couple of different game mode. The only game mode right now is Conquest, and the 2 maps that I did were Battle of Kylo and the Forest of Niflhel, if that's pronounced correctly. But the good thing about it is that you automatically get auto level to level 80, like in World vs. World, but unlike World vs. World, you get all of your skills to be able to use.
It's an actual level 80, not artificial.
It's not an artificial level 80. It's an actual level 80, so you get the same amount of health, the same amount of damage, all of your weapon skills, all of your 6 through 10 skills or 6 through 0 skills leveled up, and you do a lot of damage. And it was really a lot of fun just because of the team play, so just the small squad team play, and it was really also unlike other MMOs where you would see one class dominating over another class, or just instantly. Or you'd almost get the feeling like in other games, like in Rift, with people who would be like those stealth ranger hybrids that would just come up on you and instantly kill you, and you'd have no idea what just happened. The game, it makes you really feel like you're playing against another player. Like, you're not going to die. Another player, like another profession, is not going to have this one crazy ability that's just automatically going to wipe most of your health out, and you're going to be like, oh my god, I'm about to die. The game makes you really feel like you guys are fighting against each other, not just one's trying to live while the other's dominating the other.
That sounds like a lot of fun. What's the size of the battles? I know that in World vs. World it's kind of unlimited to the zone, but kind of.
In the Conquest, or the Mist, it's 8. I think it's 8 versus 8. I'm not 100% sure. It's 5 versus 5. Tournament play is 5 versus 5. But and they're all Conquest. So Conquest is the only game mode that's out right now, and it's just like kind of like if you played
King of the Hill.
It's kind of like King of the Hill, or kind of like Team Fortress 2. Control points where you have to control certain points, and but it's not like you have to control all the points to win. You just have to control the points for a certain amount of time and bleed lives on kind of in tickets from Battlefield 3, another shooter that I'm just throwing.
I thought I counted up to 500.
It counts up, yeah. Instead of counting down, it counts up. So whoever has the most points counts up. But so it's like reverse bleeding tickets from Battlefield 3.
Now, Dux, what about how are your frames per second in Conquest? Because I know, as far as me personally in World vs. World, if there was a group of green invaders, I could not see anything on my screen. I was lagging horribly, and I would just press W and run in one direction.
It was fine. Of course, it was a smaller map, and not as many players. But there was a lot of that's what I think. I mean, just think like structured PvP or Conquest or the Mist it's just really small. So just take whatever World versus World has and then reduce it. And I don't think that you're going to have a real problem with performance and those kind of things.
One thing that I found out because I was really curious about it was the fact that the beta client only used the CPU. In the final event, someone ended up saying, my GPU is the same temperature it is when my computer's idle. Why don't you use my GPU, Guild Wars 2? And that really piqued my curiosity. So I went and looked it up, and I found out that not only does Guild Wars 2 supposedly only use your CPU and not really your GPU at all, but it also doesn't utilize all of your cores. I myself have a 4-core processor. It's pretty good, and if it wasn't using all of them, then that would explain a lot. Because I probably, unless I was on the lowest settings, I never really hit 60 frames per second. And then one thing I did notice, though, on top of that is when I was doing the cinematics part where the two characters were talking, my character and another one, my GPU, if I didn't have vertical sync on, my GPU on that part, for whatever reason, the beta actually allowed it to be used. And my computer basically became a rocket ship. It became so loud. It was, I didn't know, I thought my computer was about to explode.
Yeah, I mean, I was running on pretty much like medium settings the whole time. I didn't want to push my computer anymore just because I knew the birth of people that were going to be on it. I didn't want to be lagging while doing like every quest type things. And Stringdude, Stringdude had problems.
Yeah, I had horrible problems. But I mean, I was using my laptop, and you guys were both using desktops, right?
Yeah, we were both using quad cores. Duxk here had a 2400, I had a 2500, and Stringdude had a Duo. I have no idea what type of processor it was, but it's a 2-year-old, 3-year-old laptop.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it's a 2-year-old laptop. But it's still good. I use it plenty for like when I played WoW, it was perfectly fine. When I played Skyrim, anything like that, it's perfectly fine. But for this, whatever reason, whenever those green invaders came, whenever I was doing any kind of PvP or there was a dynamic event with a lot of people around, it was horrible. And I was on the highest performance settings. So
thing is, I didn't even put mine on the highest graphics settings. I mean, I could still run that at like 40 frames per second in most areas, but most of the time I had everything on medium with the exception of shaders, and I was still running at 40 to 50 frames per second in open areas. And then when I went to Black Citadel, my FPS dropped a lot.
And then speaking of home cities and stuff like that, like Black Citadel, Holbark, or Divinity's Reach, the only person in our little troop here that took part in crafting was Dagnis, and kind of want him to talk about what he liked about crafting. And of course, the Stringdude and I kind of skirted crafting.
Okay. Yeah, we did more of the questing.
We did more of the questing and stuff like that.
Crafting at first, it may seem like, oh, this is pretty cool. You toss things on a workbench and you're gonna get some awesome piece from, I don't know, from wherever. It's gonna be like a god piece. It's gonna be able to kill everything. But that's not the situation. Once you know how to make a shoe, you know how to make every shoe. Once you know how to put a buff on one object, you know how to put it on every object. So it becomes a laundry list just like every single other MMO. And it goes that way all the way to level 40 as far as we know of, because there's a website for Guild Wars 2 called GW2DB.com, and it's run by Curse, and it has a lot of information as far as for zones, professions, all the way up to level 400. It's really cool. I went and looked at it and was kind of, I didn't really like the fact that it was the same till 400, but it's still kind of fun because it gives you a little bit more sense of achievement. So, and I like the way that it's not, that each profession, each crafting discipline actually has its own experience and level up bar. So it doesn't simply work like, oh, you build this and you're for sure getting a level up, or you get a great chance of getting a level up or something like that. It's not like most other MMOs. It's pretty nice.
Now, when you say level up, do you mean like level up the actual crafting, or like level up your character?
Level up the crafting. But from what I understand, it didn't work this beta. When you do like the actual crafting process, not just the harvesting, which actually I want to mention something about that in a second. When you're actually doing the crafting part, like making a pair of shoes, you're supposed to get level up experience for your character as a whole. So it's a little bonus, and you do get that on the gathering. And one thing I want to mention about the gathering is the tools you get for the gathering. They don't clearly say that certain objects, because the crafting tools, pickaxe, hatchet, and scythe, they actually level up kind of in themselves. They have different materials. Like the second level of those materials is called iron scythe or iron pickaxe, and the bottom ones don't clearly state that they won't get everything. So I was trying to mine iron ore with the bottom level ones, and I was getting junk ore. I just ended up throwing away. I didn't realize that I was getting junk ore at the time because I wasn't paying full attention, and I just enjoyed the fact that I was getting experience by doing that. Also, they don't, and I'm pretty sure they'll probably fix this, they don't put any of those gathering materials around the professions. The only time that I actually found like a scythe and stuff like that was from a merchant outside of the city in the most obscure area that otherwise you would have just thought, oh, it's just another merchant, I'm not really needing to sell anything. So I had to go and find one merchant amongst tons that sold the one thing I wanted, and it was not classified any form or way to be for that type of stuff. And it frustrated the crap out of me. It was a pain in the butt to find it.
So from what you've noticed so far, is it better to go ahead and get a crafting profession early on and then build up from there, or kind of establish your character and then get one?
It's better to go ahead and get it on early on and to get those gathering materials, because that experience is going to add up a lot. Because you get not just for getting all 3 items from a tree or all 3 pieces of wood, but you get like a nice chunk experience from each one. There are a couple professions you should stay away from on a first character, maybe even a second character, and that's cooking and jewelry. Cooking, because apparently it costs a lot of karma, and it even tells you, the NPC, he's like, oh yeah, stay away from me if you don't have a lot of money. And jewelry, because the way it works is that those buff crystals that we found that we didn't really get all that much of, that are usually used on armor and stuff, you use that to make rings and amulets, and you just don't see that as much. So you should make a couple characters and save it up.
And then from crafting, nice segue will be, we'll talk about the currencies and how we felt about the currencies. Of course, when you do events, of course, when you bring up your map, there's these little heart areas, and when you finish these areas, you get sent in your mail, which I think is really weird, letter from the NPC sending you money, which I would instantly, which I would rather personally just get right away rather than having to open up the mail tab, open up that mail, take the attachment, the money attachment, and then delete that mail. It's just a little bit of extra stuff, just a little bit, just automatically get it. But of course, like Dagnis said in a previous, there's going to be so many currencies, and you have your hard currencies, which are karma and the money, gold, silver, and copper, and then you have your what we'd like to call we're going to call a soft currency, which are gems.
Yes,
because you have to buy those with real.
Or you can actually trade gold for it. It fluctuates a lot. At the very beginning of the beta weekend, everybody was given 2,000, but I got my email like midday Saturday saying that I got how to get the 2,000 free. So I went that whole time, and at the very beginning, it was like a good 30 silver for 100 gems. Which is, that's a lot of money, especially when you're given 2,000. And as the weekend went by, it went as low as 4 silver, and at the very end of the weekend, it was like 12. But that's probably because a lot of people had already spent their gems. So
it went back up.
Yeah, so it went back up. One thing that I probably am gonna do, I know this is gonna sound kind of sad, but I'll probably dump like $10 on gems straight at the start of the game and take advantage of the fact that the silver trade value is so high, and just cash in a good like 1,000 gems or something. Assuming 1,000 is worth $10, I'll strike that up and I'll get 3 gold at the start of the game, and that'll give me a nice boost to not worry about money at all at the very beginning. I don't know if you guys are willing to drop the money for that or not.
I might, who knows? And of course, like Guild Wars does have the new Guild Wars 2 is going to be played like you want it to be played. So we don't discourage you spending money, but we also like the fact that you don't have to spend money.
Yeah. I actually, one thing I'm going to also end up doing was I like the fact that it does have diminishing returns. You can't go and trade silver into gems and then gems into silver. The way it works is you're just going to end up losing money over time. But what you can do is you can end up, and this is what I'm going to end up doing after that, once the gem market stables, is I'm going to end up trading silver for gems and kind of investing in gems and having like an average value of how much I've spent on those gems. And then once that goes over, turning it into real money and cashing in. So play off of that market, because it actually will tell you like the 5-day high and stuff and low. It tells you all that information. You don't really have to record it.
Now, did any of you guys get a chance on currencies as well? Another important part of the market in Guild Wars 2. Did any of you guys get a chance to look at the trading posts and see how it worked?
Yes, it's most other MMOs every MMO that we've run into, or most auction houses, as you might think, like Amazon, people end up posting on there. It's a seller's market, and this one I noticed it was more of a buyer's market. Although you could do a seller's market in the sense that you post it up there and people try to,
outbid on certain thing.
Outbid on certain things. But I found that simply because of the fact that buyer's market is available, that people aren't going to be using that seller's market at all. There's even a tab in the comments for selling that's just like, there's people wanting to buy X amount of these for this much gold. So if you agree with that price, you can sell it right then and there. You don't have to go and sell it. And also when you hover over the object, it'll tell you lowest seller, highest buyer. And the problem is that you don't see like a huge list of objects. All you do is just see the highest and lowest for those two. And it kind of makes it more like, I'm bringing old school here. It kind of makes it like RuneScape to an extent, where you see a range, but that's really it. But it's kind of irritating because it's so buyer friendly.
So do you think that it would be a good way to make a pretty steady profit? Like just if you just monitor it well enough?
I think it'll be harder to monitor it. That's because you won't be able to, because I don't know what ArenaNet's status on add-ons are, but one thing I used to do was I had a couple add-ons for WoW, and I would literally record apps or record objects and I see a graph. But with this one, it's going to be pretty much impossible to do that. And unless you literally stay on a couple of objects, you can't really stay on that many, a couple of objects and monitor it, you're not really going to make money buying and selling objects. You're going to be making money from farming or selling raw materials. So,
yeah, I like the fact, personally, I don't know, you might be able to, you might not. It just really depends on how dedicated you are to spending the time on the commerce tab. I just like the fact that while you're out in the world, you can bring up the commerce tab, buy an item from the commerce tab, and then go to the trading post and then pick up that item, which is like, it doesn't immediately, which is really nice because it doesn't like, you buy it from the tab and it automatically gets mailed to you. You actually have to go back to a city to where the trading post and talk to the guy and then pick up your items, which is, it's really nice because like, let's say you were just waiting for an event to start, or you were just kind of like gathering, or just maybe on the phone with somebody on your cell phone with somebody, and you just open up the commerce tab, you see an item that you like, you buy it, and then when you head back into town, you can equip it. The only bad thing is that some people might forget that they bought something, find an upgrade, and then get back to town and be like, why did I buy this in the first place? But I don't know. I think the commerce here is going to be very, for lack of a better word, it's going to be very dynamic.
I do like the fact that you can mail from anywhere. I know personally with one of you two, or maybe all three of us, can be mailing buddies, quote unquote, because at the very beginning of the game, I found myself running out of mail bag space a lot. So one thing that I was thinking would be kind of cool is for people to find a mail buddy. There's a person you trust, and you just be like, oh yeah, I have a full inventory. Crap, I want to get this blue item off this dead body or whatever. It's unclaimed loot. And you can just mail crap to people, and they can just mail it back to you. Although it's kind of annoying that it's only 5 objects at a time, but maybe ArenaNet foresaw this, so they kind of made it a little bit more annoying. Because once you send a piece of mail, you can't immediately send another one. For however long it says it's still processing your mail. So you can't just like send a crap ton or a whole inventory worth of stuff to a person.
Speaking of loot, I know Stringdude really wants to talk about questing. So what did you think about the whole questing feeling? Not like just dynamic events, just the whole questing.
I liked the questing, but I did have some issues as far as that's concerned. Being an elementalist, I had a lot of abilities at my disposal, but it took time to actually unlock the abilities. So I found myself actually going out and doing dynamic events, just going and killing enemies to unlock my abilities. Then I found that whenever I did go to the quest site, it would say recommended level, whatever, 7, let's say. And I was level 6, and I'd think, oh, okay, I can go in there. I'm level 6. I'm pretty close to 7. I go in there. I got destroyed several times. Like, I probably died 15 times in one spot.
So you're recommending to people to, if it says to be a recommended level, try to be that recommended level.
That was ridiculous.
That goes kind of back to what I was saying about the Mesmer and the personal story. Just between level 2 and 3, you'd think such basic levels, there'd be no real difference. Holy crap, I got destroyed.
Well, I think that also has to do with what type of armor you have. Like, as a Mesmer, you're light armor, and you're also melee for the most part. As an elementalist, you're cloth, and most of your stuff is far away unless you use your daggers or your scepter. So I had a problem with that because they would run up to me, and like my AOE stuff, it wouldn't hit because they'd be running right through it. So it was really difficult for me as far as that's concerned. What did you think about it, Dux?
I like the questing, especially because I was playing a really kind of fast engineer dual pistol or pistol shield with elixir gun and stuff like that, or flamethrower if I felt like it. But I thought it was pretty easy. There were a couple of times where I was not the recommended level, and I did not like having to go back through some of the areas to just find or explore just to get experience, or I didn't harvest for too much experience, or just having to explore and having to do some of the area quest to help people out. I didn't like the fact that when I wasn't the recommended level, I had to be reminded I probably should just go back and through the same area that I just walked through and do all this stuff. The one thing I did like about the game, is just like the variety of areas that you can go to. Because I know as a char from the 15 to 25 zone is Discia Plateau,
which is the same area
which is also the same area that the Norn can go to. But there's also a secondary zone that's also 15 through 25 for Norn. I did not see on the map that I found that weren't a lot of people in there, which I kind of enjoyed. It might kind of make the questing a little bit better because it wasn't too crowding. It wasn't too crowded. Like I didn't walk in and immediately like, oh my god, this town is getting besieged, and there were like a million people there. Kind of like in Discia Plateau, when you walk in, it's Meattoberfest. And
where you came in,
where I came in is Meattober. Where the Norn come in is the Meattoberfest, and there's the caravan that's constantly getting attacked by the shrew people. And like I walked in, and that was immediately happening.
Oh yeah,
there was like
50 the mole people.
Yeah, there was immediately happening, and there was like 50 people there, and I was just like, I'm just trying to get my quest. But then I was like, just all right, I'll help for this because I kind of like want the experience. But I did like having multiple like zones to go to and stuff like that. That was really cool, just of the same level, and even to go back. The other thing I really liked were the skill point bosses. Oh, mini bosses, I would call them.
Challenges.
Skill point challenges. Some of them, just go up, buy a book, read the book, get a skill point. The other ones I really liked was fighting the half-naked Norn in the hot springs in Wayfarer Hills for a skill point.
One thing I noticed about the skill point challenges, which was really cool, was, like you mentioned, not necessarily buy a book, but you can find books. When I went to the Norn area for the final event, at night, I actually went to that place where you guys killed the ginormous ice worm or whatever, and I think it was Air. She was there, some character was there, and she was like, "Oh, you missed this fight, but here you can learn stuff from it from this book." And I double click it, and I'm like, "Yeah, I got a skill point." The annoying part is the book doesn't disappear, so it's just like, "Oh, now it's useless." So you just toss it.
You just toss it, yeah.
But I found it pretty cool because there's a lot of variety. There's usually a person that you have to kill, which I found on every single event that I had to kill someone. 2 other players nearby would assist me, so it didn't really feel like a challenge, but it was pretty fun nevertheless. And then there was the communion ones, where there's a certain point where usually there's a boss or a hard person around it to kill. One of those was in the bottom of a lake for me, and what you do is it's like a good 5-second cast when you commune to it, and you'll end up getting the skill point that way. And then there's the books. Those are the 3 ones I noticed.
Yeah, those are the ones that I noticed as well. Just exploring, finding the guy, talking to the guy, and being like, "Hey, you found me. Here's a skill point." Or, "Hey, you found me. Buy this book. Earn a skill point." Or, "Hey, you find me.
Let's fight
me. Earn a skill point."
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the communion points weren't really a place. I mean, weren't a person. They were just location. So.
I didn't have a problem finding where the skill point challenges were, but I did sometimes have a problem actually getting to the skill point challenges as far as the waypoints. Because, like, for me, I would be far away from the challenge, but I had already unlocked the waypoint and found that, oh, centaurs now control the waypoint. So now I have to actually run over there and destroy the centaurs so that I can actually use the waypoint again. Did you guys have this kind of problem?
Yes, there was one part in the Char homelands in a crypt. It's actually the same exact location that you go to in the very beginning. We tried to go there before we went to another location. It was at the very beginning of the Char tutorial, we ended up going down and fighting a boss in this crypt. And in that same area later on in the actual game or whatever, there's 3 like mini bosses there, but you need a good like 10-person group to take on each boss. And at the very end, at the 3rd one, once you kill him, there's a skill point dude there, which I don't know if you fight or just talk to a book. I think it's probably you get a book, just like you get a book from the person that's near the final boss of the Norn area. This is near the final boss of the Char area. But every single time that I would try to go to that waypoint, sometimes it would even let me. It would let me if I went from like the Black Citadel. It would let me, but then I would basically instantly die. So it was like complete waste of money. But then other times if I was already in the zone, it'd be like, yeah, it's blocked. I never once saw it not blocked. I don't think. It was always blocked. One time, me and a large group of people, we actually got to that 3rd boss, and we just couldn't beat him. It was just too hard. It was a pain in the butt. I did not enjoy it at all, and I was just like, well, this zone's not getting completed in this beta. So I think Arena kind of did bad on that one, but hopefully they'll make it a little easier. Because it's just that part was just too.
I mean, it's kind of like Rift when when an event happened.
No one was there.
Yeah, when no one was there, overtakes the thing, and you're just like, man, I gotta go turn into quests over there. So you gotta run over there and kill everything, and then claim it, and then res the guy who had to turn your quest in and be like, hey, you should just give me double experience because I resed you.
I definitely believe that a lot of the events would have been easier if you were in a group. As far as us, the first time we actually got together, all 3 of us, we met up at the Black Citadel, which was very simple. I mean, I was the human, Duxk was a Norm, so it was really simple for both of us at the time. And then we were actually able to tackle a lot more things. But I did hear that a lot of people had trouble, not sure where. I mean, Dagnis, what do you think about that?
I think it was really easy with the Surrogates to find each other for the home cities, because each home city has a purple swirly Surrogate on their map, and there's only one in the map that I'm aware of, or at least in the Black Citadel. There was only one in the Norn city. What was it called? Holbrak. There was only one, because I visited there, obviously, to go to the final event. And it was really easy to find it. It took you to Lion's Arch, which at that point, there was a bunch of other portals all in one semicircle, well, not really a semicircle, a circle. And that would take you to any of the other cities. And that made it really easy to actually go to other cities. I think where a lot of people had problems with was the overflow servers. Me and Stringdude tried to find each other we were both on overflow servers, and we were thinking that it was just simply we were on the same one, because there would be like maybe only one overflow server. And that ended up not being the case, because the way overflow servers work is that people from other servers could end up coming to your overflow server. It was not simply everybody from Emery Bay that was an overflow server went into this overflow server. And that's why you never saw world versus world benefits in the overflow server. From what I understand, it was slightly bugged, but if you had 2 people in a party that both went into that one of them went into the zone for that you were in the city, and one of them went into the zone, and then other people from that party went into that zone as well, also in the overflow server, it would actually try to sync you into that same overflow server. But if you're both on the overflow server and then you get into a party through like friends list, it wouldn't automatically sync you to the same overflow server. So me and Stringdude were in the exact same spot, and we were invisible to each other because of the fact that we were in different overflow servers.
Yeah, but we did find each other in the city right when we went into the city.
That took like 5 minutes.
Yeah, very simple.
It maps.
It's I don't understand how people can't open their map and when they have somebody in their party follow that little blue dot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even have to actually go around the city to find that surrogate either.
No.
So it was pitifully easy. One of the things that we did together that was really fun was that secret event place. I ended up hearing about it a while back from a previous beta event through Total Biscuit, and I found out in the comments exactly where it was. I knew it was in the Char homelands, the Char beginning area, and we found it. We ended up going there, And there was a chest at the end, and
It was a lot of fun, but it also was really funny. Some of the things were bugged. Of course, the infamous, if maybe you guys will see it, the infamous cave spider raping the crap out of Stringdude. The jumping was, you need to basically, before you play this game, you need to go pick up your old Super Mario Brothers and make sure you play a bunch of that, because the platforming is basically that. You miss a platform, you die.
I have to say, you guys had a huge advantage when it came to jumping.
Jump shot.
Yeah, your jump shot. All I could do was run really fast, which, if my timing was off by a millisecond, I fell. And then whenever I reached up and you guys were already so far ahead of me, a cave spider was just sitting there waiting for me, and I couldn't get around him. So it was fun, though, whenever we all did finally end up getting up there. Except for the time when Duxk was downed in like this booby-trapped area. There were spikes coming up, and he got downed there. And so I was just trying to heal him, but the spikes didn't stop. They just kept going, so I could not heal him fast enough.
We spent about 15 minutes doing that before I was just like, all right, you know what, I'll just teleport and then go back and do this jumping thing. There's some footage that Dagnis was nice of us, well, most of the footage that he recorded. I, of course, was pretty much absent-minded about recording. I was more focused on the game. Dagnis did record some of the video that you guys will be watching throughout the cast, and there's going to be that video of us tackling the infamous secret area jump.
yeah, it was a pain in the butt. But there was one other one that I actually saw after this beta, because there's these spots in every single spot. Apparently, there's also a secret location in World vs. World. I have no idea where or anything like that. But there's one in the Norn starting area. There's probably one in the human starting area. All of which of these are fairly obstacle related, not really any fighting, but there is some in the Norn one. Well, more than what we counted in Char. And all of them have a chest that usually or hopefully should give you good loot. The Norn one was, from the video I saw, if anything, was probably more interesting than the Char one. So I'm excited to do that in the next beta.
I'll definitely say I would have never found it on my own. It was so well hidden. It was behind some seaweed, and I've passed it several times whenever I had to actually spawn out of there. But it was difficult. I don't know how some of these people actually find it, but I am excited to look for it after I unlock all my abilities.
The Norn one, from what I saw, the skill challenge that you mentioned earlier about fighting a guy in the springs,
Jacuzzi.
it's actually right behind that. Like literally, like there's not really anywhere you have to go, but it's like right behind a tree, right behind that. So they might be, for all our listeners out there, they could be right behind you and you don't even know it. So look around, you never know. Easy loot.
Easy loot, yeah. And on that note, that'll be the cast for today.
Next podcast that's coming out at an undetermined time, we'll discuss builds and various things we learned as far as surviving and tips to help you guys kick ass and take names.
That'll be it for us. Don't forget to pick up your turrets if you're an engineer, or level up of the million skills that you have as an elementalist when you get your next beta event.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We will see you guys later.
Toodles.
Bye!